Hi there foodies, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe to be notified of future videos. Hi, my name is Nadine and today I will do with you an awesome oxtail, and I can assure you it will be absolutely amazing and you're gonna surprise your dear loved one with an amazing dish. So I would like to show you the ingredients first. So obviously you need oxtail. I'm having here 1 kg of oxtail. Using a little bit of flour, so I'm just having here a third of a cup, some leek, some celery, 2 carrots, 2 cloves of garlic, 1 onion. We're using some fresh herbs, so I have some rosemary here and some thyme and 1 bay leaf. If you only have dried, that's fine. We're using a tin tomato, we're using some olive oil for cooking. Spices, we're using paprika and cayenne pepper. A little bit of normal pepper if you don't like cayenne, and salt. This is a salt mixture, but any salt will do, and obviously some red wine. Okay, so now we're gonna start with our oxtail. So that is 1 kilo, and we have to start marinating this. So I'm gonna put this in a wide bowl because it's better to mix in a wide bowl. Obviously have your hands washed before you start, because we're going to use our hands to mix everything. With my oxtail, before I'm starting to fry it, I'm dusting it with a little bit of flour, and I'm going to add my spices, but not salt. So spices, I mean, I'm adding some paprika and some cayenne pepper with my flour. You could mix it as well with your flour, but then you might waste some of your spices, so I prefer to do it that way. And I'm rubbing it in. You see the pieces are stuck a little bit together, so we are making sure it's dusted completely. So if it's not enough, we can just add a little bit more flour to this. Right, this is what it needs to look like. Nicely dusted with a lot of spices, and we can leave this aside. So in the meanwhile, I will cut my vegetables and then we can start cooking. Now we have all our ingredients ready, and now we're gonna start cooking. So we will start with our meat first, and I have to put my pot on so it's nice and hot when we add the meat. And now my pot is nice and hot, so I can add my oil, because I don't want to put my meat in a cold pot. So we're gonna add a tablespoon of oil, and I'm using my tongue to put my meat in. If you need to add at any stage a little bit more oil, always add your oil in the corner where the meat is not touching it. So like this, the oil will heat up much quicker and it doesn't absorb into the flour. So I'm going to let this seal for a while, so this can take 2-3 minutes, and we are just cooking it, browning it on each side, and once it's brown, then we're going to carry on with our vegetable and all the rest. Once my meat is nicely browned, I'm going to add my salt. You probably wondered already, why is there no salt on? What salt does it? Takes out moisture. So we are going to season this now nicely with salt, and then we will take it out of the pot to fry our vegetables in there to continue our dish. You really want to make sure that your meat is really nicely browned, otherwise your dish is not going to taste as great. If you feel at any point your oil is getting too hot, like steaming up like it's starting now, I'm gonna switch this off until I'm finished taking my meat off. Now I'm going to add my vegetables. My oil is still hot, so I'm only gonna switch it on a low heat, and I can add it straight into the same oil, because now from the meat the fat has come out as well, and this is great for just frying everything. So in here is our cut onions, garlic, celery, leek, and onion, I guess I haven't said. Okay, so we're gonna brown this as well a little bit. And once this is, or sweating, I wouldn't say make it brown, just to fry it out so it gives it a sweetness. You would call that vegetables cut in a big chunks, mirepoix. It comes from the French, and it gives you all the flavors you need. And once this is sauteed a little bit, we will add our tomato paste as a next step. So I will give it another 2 minutes, and then we can carry on. Now we're gonna add the tomato paste, because my vegetable has cooked nicely and I'm increasing my temperature again. So we will brown the tomato paste. This is the most important to get the beautiful sauce done, and not the veggies first, not the meat first in. So all the tomato paste goes in. And we are browning this. If you have a big enough pot, you can add your meat at this point already back. I prefer to do it this way. That goes faster and I have more control about my sauce. And I'm going to add as well my vegetable, my spices. So I have a bay leaf here. I put some rosemary in as a whole, picked earlier in the garden, and some fresh thyme. After browning this a little bit, you can add your meat back into this pot. Stir it 1 or 2 times. And now we're going to deglaze this with the red wine. At that point, if anything is cooked on the base of the pot, it will cook into your sauce, and that makes your sauce. So you let it cook for maybe a minute or 2 depending on how big your pot is. And once the liquid has almost reduced and almost is gone, then we're gonna add our tomato paste. 2 minutes have passed and my liquid has cooked away, and you can see it's almost sticking on the base of the pot. And you can see as well the glossy around the meat. And at this stage you're gonna add your tomato, whole twin tomatoes or cut tomatoes, not the puree, as I said earlier. You can add this, and I find sometimes the is still nice and the flavor inside the tin, so you can use a bit of warm water and use the same amount of water as you had in the tin, just to add a little bit of extra moisture in your dish. So we're gonna give this another 2-3 stirs, bring it back to the boil, then we will close the lid and we let it sit and cook for 2-3 hours until the meat is falling off the bone, and we're just gonna stir it in between. So you can do whatever you want to do in between. We're gonna make something to serve it with in the meanwhile, and you can eat it. Now we are gonna check out after 1.5 hours how our food is cooking. Right, wow, it looks good. So that means I'm gonna give it a quick stir. I'm gonna taste it if I need to adjust any flavors, because sometimes the wine and the tomato can be quite on the strong acidic side. So you might want to add a little bit of sugar or honey, which is not in your list. So I'm just adding it. And we need to adjust maybe our spiciness. So we're not checking if the meat is done or anything. I know it needs longer. So just a good stir. Now it needs to get tasted. Okay, I can still add some salt and I can add a little bit of sugar because the acidity is quite high of the wine. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of sugar and add a little bit more salt to this dish. So it might be more or less for you depending on how much you use and how your taste buds are. I'm gonna give it a second stir and then I will close it up and let it continue to cook for at least 1.5 hours. Alright, time has passed, so let's double check what's going on in here. Oh yes, I can see my sauce is looking nice and glossy. So at this stage I'm going to check how the consistency of my sauce is. So I'm going to stir it. Wow, it's bubbling quite a bit. And if you want to taste, don't burn yourself, so maybe just switch it off for a moment. And I'm going to check my sauce. I can see it is a little bit still runny, so if you like it a little bit more thick, you can get it slightly thicker with a bit of maizena water. If you like it on the runny side, I think this is a nice consistency. So we have to taste it as well to see if we need to add any salt and pepper to this. I think I like it that way. So I'm going to leave it as it is. And now let's check my meat. I can see my meat is falling off the bone, which is great. This is what you want. So it means it's soft and tender. So let's make that sauce slightly more thick. So let's switch this back on. I've got some cold water here and some maizena. Just 2 tablespoons of cold water. Tablespoon of maizena. Always mix with cold water. Make sure it's mixed very well. Don't add all of this to your sauce, so I'm going 2 tablespoons in at once. I've often been asked, isn't it gonna make lumps or anything? So the best is really add it to the hot sauce and mix this cold and you will not have lumps. Make sure you boil it after you added it for 1 minute at least, otherwise you will taste the starchiness of the maizena. If you feel at any stage it needs a little bit more thickening, then you continue adding. I'm not gonna add too much to this. In the meanwhile, I'm going to check if I find my piece of rosemary and my bay leaf. If I can't find it, well, if I'm dishing it, then I will see it. Otherwise, my dish is nice and done and can be served. And now I see the consistency is exactly what I want. It's still a little bit on the runny side, but it's nice for serving it with mesh or polenta. And I'm going to leave it that way. Voila, and now my dish is ready. Thank you so much for watching this video, it really means a lot to me. Please let me know in the comments below how this recipe worked out for you. If you have any suggestions or anything what you would like to see in the future, please leave me a comment below. I'm happy to do this for you. Please subscribe to my channel to be notified of future videos.